My daughter-in-law left her cell phone at my place. It started buzzing, and the screen lit up with a photo of my husband, who passed away 5 years ago. When I saw the message, my whole body went cold. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're watching from. The afternoon sun was streaming through the kitchen window, lighting up the dust motes dancing over the pine table where I'd shared coffee with Arthur for 47 years. 5 years gone, and I still caught myself pouring 2 cups every morning. Old habits, they say, are the ghosts of the heart. At 71, I'd learned that grief wasn't a storm you passed through. It was a new climate you learned to live in. I was wiping down that same pine table when I heard the vibration. I thought it was a June bug bumping against the screen door. We get them all the time here in rural Georgia. But it buzzed again, a sharp, mechanical sound. A cell phone vibrating on the hall table near the door. "Hello?" I called out, wiping my hands on my apron. "Somebody forget something?" Nothing but silence answered. My daughter-in-law, Denise, had left just 30 minutes ago after her usual Wednesday visit. She came by every week, sharp as a tack, supposedly to bring me groceries, though I always suspected it was more about keeping up appearances than genuine care. Denise was always put together, pristine, the kind of woman whose nails were always perfect and who never had a smudge on her glasses. The phone buzzed again. I walked over, my knees creaking. The device lay face up, screen glowing. My breath hitched. Arthur's face smiled up at me. It wasn't a picture I knew. Not from our albums. This was different. Arthur, wearing a bright blue fishing shirt I'd never seen, standing on a boat dock I didn't recognize. His smile was wider, happier than I'd seen it in the years before he passed. The image was attached to a text message. My hand shook as I reached for it. I shouldn't look. I knew that. Privacy, respect. These were things I valued. But that was my husband's face. My dead husband, looking healthier and more alive than he had in those last, struggling years. The message preview was visible beneath his photo. Wednesday again, same time. I'm counting the seconds until I can see you. The kitchen tilted. I grabbed the edge of the hall table, my other hand clutching Denise's phone. The words swam, refusing to make sense. Wednesday, same time, counting the seconds. This wasn't an old message. The timestamp read 2:17 p.m., just moments ago. Someone was texting Denise. Someone using Arthur's picture. Someone who met her on Wednesdays. My mind raced. A prank? A cruel, sick joke? But who would do that? And why use Arthur's face? I should put the phone down. I should call Denise, tell her she'd left it. But I didn't. I unlocked the screen. Denise was never one for complex security. I'd seen her type in the code a dozen times. Her son's birthday. My grandson, Elijah's, birthday. 4 digits. 0720, July 20th. The phone opened. I went to the messages, my fingers trembling. The contact was saved as J, just a single letter. But the message thread, it went back. Months. Years. I scrolled up, watching the dates fly by. Can't wait for tomorrow. Wear that blue dress I love. Thank you for last night. You make me feel alive again. Your husband has no idea. We're safe. Your husband. My son, Marcus. Denise's husband of 15 years, the father of my grandson, the boy who'd helped Arthur rebuild the porch when he was just 19. I sank onto the wooden bench by the door, a piece Arthur had made with his own 2 hands. The phone felt like it was burning my skin, heavy with secrets I never wanted. The earlier messages were different. Careful planning. Same place as always. The farm is perfect. She never suspects. Make sure the old woman doesn't see us. She's sharper than she looks. The old woman. Me. They'd been meeting here, in my home, under my roof. I scrolled further, my heart hammering. And then I found it. The message that stopped my world. I still have some of his old shirts at the shack. Should I get rid of them? Or do you want to keep one? His shirts. Arthur's shirts. The reply from Denise, dated just 3 months after Arthur's funeral. Keep them. I love sleeping in them. They smell like him. Like us. Like those afternoons when Clara thought he was visiting his cousin. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the floorboards. No, it wasn't possible. Arthur and Denise. My husband. My daughter-in-law. It was sick. A violation of everything I'd ever believed about my life, my marriage, my family. But the proof was glowing on that screen. How long? When did it start? Those Wednesday afternoons Arthur always claimed he was visiting his cousin Frank in Atlanta? Frank had passed away 3 years ago, taking any chance of confirmation with him. I snatched the phone back up, forcing myself to read. There were photos. Dozens. Hidden in a folder I found by accident. Arthur and Denise together. Arthur's arm around her waist. Denise kissing his cheek. My farmhouse in the background. My porch swing. My pecan tree. My bedroom window. One photo showed them in the barn. Denise wearing one of Arthur's old flannel shirts, laughing at something. The date stamp read, August 2019, 5 months before Arthur's massive heart attack, 5 months before I sat by his hospital bed, holding his hand, telling him I loved him. Had he been thinking of her? Were his last thoughts of Denise instead of me? A new message popped up, making me jump. Did you forget your phone? Marcus just called my cell asking if I'd seen you. I told him you were probably running errands. Get your phone and call him back before he gets suspicious. J. The mysterious sender using Arthur's photo. But Arthur was dead. So who was J? My mind was spinning, even as my heart cracked. Someone was continuing Arthur's affair with Denise. Someone who knew. Someone who had access to Arthur's photos, his shirts, his secrets. I heard a car pull into the driveway. Denise's small white sedan, coming back. I had maybe 30 seconds. Confront her now, with nothing but shock and rage? Or stay quiet, learn more, understand the full depth of this poison before I showed my hand. The doorbell rang. I looked at the phone, then at the door. On the screen, another message from Jay. I love you. See you tonight. Same shack. I'll bring the wine. The shack. More lies. More secrets. I made my choice. Coming, I called out, my voice sounding surprisingly normal. I slipped Denise's phone into my apron pocket, grabbed a dish towel, and opened the door with a smile I didn't feel. Denise, dear, did you forget something? She stood there, perfectly calm. But I saw it now. Something in her eyes I'd missed before. A hardness. The look of someone guarding a secret. My phone, she said, smiling. I'm so scattered. Is it here? I haven't seen it, I lied, the words sliding out easily. But come in. Help me look. As she stepped past me, her perfume washing over me, the same perfume I'd sometimes smelled on Arthur's clothes, I felt something change inside me. The grieving widow was gone. In her place was someone else, someone who would uncover every single lie. Let's check the kitchen, I said, closing the door. The phone stayed in my pocket, warm against my hip, holding all the secrets that were about to tear my world apart. Denise searched my kitchen, opening drawers, checking the counters. I watched her, my hand in my pocket, fingers wrapped around her phone. That's so odd, she said, her brow furrowed. I know I left it on the hall table. Maybe it's in your car, I suggested, all helpful concern. Maybe. She didn't look convinced. Her eyes swept the room and lingered for just a second on my apron. She knows, I thought. Well, I should go, she said. Marcus wants me home. If you find it, I'll call you right away, I promised. After she left, I watched her drive off. Then I pulled out the phone and sat in Arthur's chair. The message thread went back 4 years. 4 years of my husband and my daughter-in-law betraying my son and me. The early messages were careful. Then they became, passionate. Arthur had written things to Denise I'd forgotten he even knew how to say. "You make me remember what it's like to be wanted. Clara just looks at me like I'm a ghost." That one stung. Had I done that? Had I stopped seeing him? But that didn't excuse this. I found the references to the shack. The one Arthur told me he'd sold years ago. I found GPS coordinates in a photo. Lake Hartwell, 40 minutes away. But I still didn't know who Jay was. My own phone rang, startling me. Marcus. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered, forcing my voice to be light. "Mom, have you seen Denise? She's not answering her phone." "She was here, but she left. Maybe her battery died." "Maybe." He sounded exhausted. "Look, I need to talk to you. Can I come over tonight?" "Of course. Is everything okay?" A long pause. "We'll talk later. Love you, Mom." He hung up. I stared at Denise's phone. Marcus wanted to talk. Did he know? Did he suspect? I needed answers. Fast. But I had to be smart. I remembered what happened to Mrs. Davis down the road. Her son-in-law was stealing her pension, and when she spoke up, the family said she was confused and had her put in a home. No, I had to be smarter. I spent the afternoon making a plan. First, evidence. I connected Denise's phone to my laptop, something Elijah had taught me, and backed up everything. Photos, messages, all of it. I saved it to a thumb drive and hid it in an old hollowed-out Bible on my bookshelf. Then I focused on Jay. I read the messages again. Jay was male. He knew everything about Arthur and Denise. The messages started just 2 months after Arthur's funeral. "I can give you everything he couldn't. I'm younger, and I won't die on you." The cruelty made me sick, but it told me Jay knew Arthur was ill. I made a list. Arthur's friends, cousins. Then I found it. A message from 3 years ago, from Arthur to Denise. "James keeps asking about my fishing trips on Wednesdays. I think he's watching me. We need to be careful." James. Jay. Arthur's cousin, James. The one who lived over in Anderson. The front door opened without a knock. Only Marcus had a key. I barely had time to slide Denise's phone under the sofa cushion before he was in the doorway. He looked terrible. Pale, unshaven. "Michael, what's wrong?" He collapsed into the armchair, burying his face in his hands. "Mom, I think Denise is having an affair." The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. I kept my face calm. "What makes you think that?" "She's been distant for years. She disappears on Wednesdays. Says she's at yoga, but I checked our bank statements. No charges." He looked up at me, his eyes red. "Am I going crazy?" "No," I said quietly. "You're not crazy." He stared at me. "You know something." "I found her phone," I said, pulling it from under the cushion. "She left it here." I watched his face. "I shouldn't have looked, Michael. But I did. I wanted to protect him, my only child, but he deserved the truth." "It's bad, isn't it?" he whispered. I handed him the phone. The passcode is Elijah's birthday. While he read, I went to make tea. I knew neither of us would drink. I heard him gasp. I heard him curse. I heard a sound that was half sob, half rage. When I came back, he was white. "Dad," he said, his voice choking. "She was sleeping with Dad, my father, and my wife." He looked at me, his face crumbling. "How long?" 4 years from what I can see. And after he died, who's Jay? "I think it's James. Your cousin James." Michael's face twisted. "That. I'll kill him. I'll kill them both." "No." My voice was sharp. "You will not. We have to think." "Think? Mom? They destroyed our family. Dad betrayed you. Denise betrayed me. And James..." He stood up, pacing. "I want a divorce. I want them exposed." "And then what?" I asked. "Denise gets half of everything. She might get custody of Elijah. James denies it." You lose your son, your money, and your dignity. While they just move on. He stopped pacing. So what do? We gather more evidence. We find out exactly what they're doing. And then, I leaned forward, we destroy them. Carefully, in a way they never see coming. Michael looked at me, really looked at me. I didn't know you could be this cold, Mom. Neither did I admitted. But they hurt my son, and they hurt me, and I am not going to let them get away with it. A knock at the door made us both jump. A sharp, official knock. Mrs. Johnson? An unfamiliar voice called. I'm Detective Bryant, with the Georgia State Police. I need to speak with you about your husband's death. Michael and I locked eyes. The police. Just a moment, I called out. I grabbed Denise's phone and shoved it into Michael's hands. Hide this. Do not let anyone see it. He nodded, disappearing down the hall. I smoothed my apron, took a deep breath, and opened the door. A woman in her 40s stood there, badge in hand, her expression all business. I'm sorry to bother you, Mrs. Johnson. I'm reopening the investigation into your husband's death. There have been some new allegations. Allegations? My voice was steady. My husband died of a heart attack 5 years ago. Yes, ma'am. But we've received information suggesting his death might not have been from natural causes. She pulled out a notebook. Can you tell me who had access to your husband's medication in the weeks before he died? The world tilted again. Murder. She was suggesting Arthur had been murdered. And suddenly, the affair, the betrayal, all of it, took on a much darker, more sinister shade. I think, I said carefully, that I should call my lawyer. Detective Bryant gave me a small, hard smile. That's certainly your right, Mrs. Johnson. But I should tell you, the person who filed the complaint specifically named you as the suspect. Detective Bryant sat in my living room, her notebook open, her eyes taking in everything. Michael had come back from the hallway, his face a mask, playing the role of the worried son. I'd raised him to be a good man, but I never thought he'd have to use his manners to hide this kind of pain. Mrs. Johnson, I need to ask about the days before your husband's death, Bryant said. Specifically, his medications. Arthur had 3, I said, my voice steady. 1 for his blood pressure, a pill for cholesterol, and a baby aspirin. All from Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller retired right after Arthur passed, moved to Florida. We're trying to locate his records. She flipped a page. Who had access to those pills? Just me. And Arthur, of course. They were in our medicine cabinet. And you gave them to him? No, Arthur took his own pills. I stopped. I remembered. Wait, that's not completely true. The last few months, Denise would sometimes help him. She was a nurse, before she married Michael. Bryant's pen started moving. Your daughter-in-law had access? She visited every Wednesday. She wanted to help. As the words came out, they tasted like ash. Mom, Michael cut in, his voice tight. Are you saying Denise might have... I'm not saying anything, Bryant interrupted, her eyes on me. I'm just gathering facts. She turned to Michael. When did your wife start helping with your father's pills? I don't know. Maybe 6 months before he died. She said she wanted to make sure he was taking them right, that Mom sometimes forgot to remind him. I had never forgotten. Not once. But Denise had convinced Arthur I was getting flighty. I'd been grateful for the help. Now, I felt sick. Detective, I asked, who filed this complaint? Who said I murdered my husband? Bryant looked at me, then closed her notebook. The complaint was anonymous, but it included very specific details. Details about medication schedules, about arguments between you and your husband, about a financial motive. What financial motive? Michael demanded. My parents were fine, but they weren't rich. According to the complaint, your father had a life insurance policy worth $500,000. with your mother as the sole beneficiary. The room went silent. I felt Michael's eyes on me. I don't know anything about a life insurance policy, I said slowly. Arthur handled the money. After he died, I found the farm accounts, his pension, but no policy. I never received any payout. Bryant's expression changed. That's interesting. The complaint says the policy was taken out 3 months before his death, paid from your joint account. 3 months. Right when the messages between him and Denise had turned passionate. I want to see our bank statements, I said. From that time. We're subpoenaing those records now, Bryant said. We can get them faster, Michael said, pulling out his phone. Mom, you're still with the same bank. I can get into the online statements. We worked together while the detective watched. We pulled up the records from 5 years ago. And there it was. A payment for $1,200 to Peach State Insurance, dated 3 months before Arthur died. It had been categorized as farm equipment in the ledger. I never saw this, I whispered. I never would have looked there. Who else had access to your accounts? Bryant asked. Denise, Michael said, his voice flat. After Dad's first heart spell, she offered to help Mom with the bills. Said it was too much to handle. Thought the detective's pen was flying. So, your wife had access to your parents' finances, your father's pills, and according to the complaint, she was here the day your father died. We all were, Michael said. It was Sunday dinner. Dad collapsed right at the table. The paramedics said it was a massive heart attack. But I remembered. I remembered it with a terrible new clarity. Denise had made Arthur's favorite, pecan pie. She'd been so helpful, getting him his plate, refilling his sweet tea, insisting he take his evening pills early because dinner was so late. And I remembered something else. His pills, I said, my voice shaking. That night. Arthur said his pills looked different. He said, "These look smaller, Denise." And she laughed and told him the pharmacy changed suppliers, that it was the same medicine, just a different color. Mom, Michael's voice cracked. Are you saying Denise killed Dad? I'm saying we need to find out what was in those pills, I said, looking at Bryant. Is it too late to... After 5 years, toxicology is hard, Bryant said, standing up. But not impossible, if we get a court order to exhume the body. She looked at me, her face hard. Mrs. Johnson, I need you to understand. Right now, you are still a person of interest. The complaint named you. If you're being framed, we need to know who and why. After she left, Michael and I sat in the quiet. The sun was setting, filling the room with long, cold shadows. We have to talk to Denise, Michael finally said. Confront her. No. I stood up. My mind was working. If Denise filed that complaint, she's setting me up. If we confront her, she'll destroy evidence. She'll run. Then what do we do, Mom? We follow her. Tonight. The message from Jay said they were meeting at the shack. We need to know what they're planning. Michael looked pale. Mom, if they're dangerous. Then we stay hidden. We get evidence. We record them. We get proof. I grabbed my jacket. Your father's death wasn't natural. That insurance money went somewhere, and someone is trying to send me to prison for it. I'm going to find out why. We took Michael's truck, leaving my car in the driveway in case Denise drove by. The coordinates from the photo led us north, toward Lake Hartwell, onto roads that turned from pavement to gravel to dirt. We found it down a long, overgrown path, invisible from the main road. A small fishing shack, lights glowing in the windows. That's Denise's sedan, Michael whispered. And that's James's truck. We parked back in the trees and crept forward. The night air was cool. Through the window we could see them. Denise and James, sitting at a small table, glasses of wine in their hands, looking comfortable. Michael had his phone out, recording. We crouched under the window, listening. I still can't believe the old lady fell for it, James was saying, his voice clear. The detective bought the whole story. Hook, line, and sinker. Anonymous complaint, a few specific details. They'll have her arrested within a week, Denise said. She laughed, a sound that chilled me to the bone. She's too trusting. Always has been. Arthur always said she was naive. Shh, James said. Thought I heard something. We froze, not breathing. Michael's hand gripped my arm. Just a raccoon, Denise said. You're paranoid. No one knows about this place. Even if Marcus suspected, he'd never find it. He's too busy being the perfect son. How much longer for the insurance? James asked. The policy had a 2-year contestability period. That's long gone. Once they arrest Clara for Arthur's murder, the insurer has no reason to deny the claim. I'm the executor of the estate now, remember? The insurance pays out to the estate, and I pay us. We split it 50-50, James said. And then, Denise added, I file for divorce. Claim emotional distress from my mother-in-law murdering my father-in-law. I'll get half of everything Marcus has, plus the insurance. Michael's grip tightened, his nails digging into my skin. You're a genius, James said, using Arthur's paranoia, convincing him Clara was slipping, getting her to step back from his meds. He was so easy, Denise whispered, especially after I told him Clara was complaining to her friends, saying she wished he'd just hurry up and go. I'd never said that. Never. But Arthur had been distant in those final months. Angry. I thought it was the illness. But it was Denise, poisoning him against me. And the pills? James asked. Digoxin. Easy to get. Mixed it with his regular meds for weeks. Built it up in his system. Then that night, a final big dose in his pecan pie. The autopsy showed a massive heart attack, exactly what you'd expect. Until now, James said. She won't get an exhumation, Denise said dismissively. She's the suspect, Clara Johnson, the grieving widow who found out her husband was cheating and decided to cash in. They kissed. A long, slow kiss. Michael turned away, his whole body shaking. We crept back to the truck. Once inside, he just sat there, his hands clamped on the steering wheel. They killed him, he whispered. Denise murdered my father. And James helped her, and they're framing me. We take this to the police, Michael said, starting the truck. We show them the recording. We show them her phone. No, I said. He stared at me. Mom, they murdered Dad. They're trying to send you to prison. Michael, listen to that recording. He fumbled with the phone, and the sound of their voices filled the truck. Muffled, whispering, with the sound of crickets. You can barely see their faces. A good lawyer will tear it apart. They'll say it's fake, or that we baited them. They'll say it's not a real confession. We need more, Michael. We need something they can't deny. Like what? The money, I said, my voice hard as steel. We need to find that insurance policy. We spent that night in Michael's home office. Denise had texted him she was staying at her sister's. We were surrounded by 5 years of my old financial records. At 3 a.m., Michael found it. The insurance application, scanned and buried in a folder. Arthur's signature at the bottom. That's not his signature, I said. Arthur's was messy. This is too neat. Denise forged it, Michael said. But how do we prove? My phone buzzed on the desk, a text from an unknown number. Drop the investigation or your grandson pays the price. Ice flooded my veins. Michael, where's Elijah? At Denise's mother's. She took him there yesterday. Why? He saw my face. He read the message. He went white, snatching his phone to call his mother-in-law. He was fine. He was asleep. I told her not to let him out of her sight, not to let Denise pick him up without calling me first, Michael said, his voice shaking. Another text came. We know you were at the shack. Destroy the recording. Forget everything. You have until tomorrow night. They'd seen us. Or heard us. That's it, Michael said. I'm calling the police. We tell them everything. and they take Elijah while the police investigate? I snapped. Michael, they're desperate. If we move too fast, they'll... Then what's your plan, Mom? My son is being threatened by his mother, who is a murderer. The words hung in the air. We needed leverage, something they couldn't escape. The policy, I said. Where did the money go? Michael got back on the bank's website, using the policy number. We found the insurance company's portal. It took 3 tries to guess the password. Denise had used Elijah's name and birthday. The policy was active, but the beneficiary had been changed. 2 months after Arthur's death. Not to me, to a trust. The Arthur Johnson Memorial Trust, managed by James Johnson, trustee. That bastard, Michael breathed. He set up a trust in Dad's name. Can we see it? It's public record, Michael said, his fingers flying. He pulled up the county clerk's site. The trust was established for the benefit of Arthur Johnson's heirs, with James as sole trustee, with full discretion. In other words, I said, he controls every penny. It's worse, Michael said, scrolling. Look at the distribution. James is authorized to take trustee fees of 40%. Denise is listed as a special consultant entitled to 40%. That leaves 20% for us, I said. Just enough to look legitimate. I'm calling James, Michael said, grabbing his phone. No, I said, an idea forming. A terrible, dangerous idea. Let them think we're scared. Let them think the threat worked. I went to Michael's computer. We used a public Wi-Fi network from a neighbor. We created an anonymous email account. I sent it to James's personal email. I know about the digoxin. I know about the shack. I know about the insurance fraud. You have 24 hours to transfer $250,000 to the account below, or I go to the police with evidence that Denise murdered Arthur. She goes to prison. You go free. Your choice. A friend. I included a cryptocurrency wallet number Michael set up. You're blackmailing him? Michael whispered. I'm making him choose between the money and Denise. Either way, they panic. The response came an hour later, not to the email. A call to my cell phone. James. Clara, we need to talk. Just you and me. Tomorrow noon. At the shack. Come alone. Or Michael's son disappears. I met Michael's eyes. I'll be there, I said. Good. And Clara? Don't be stupid. You're an old woman. You can't win this. He hung up. No, Michael said, shaking his head. Absolutely not. You're not going alone. They'll kill you. Which is why you are staying with Elijah, I said. I'm going to wear a wire. A legal one. I'm going to tell him I'm recording right at the start. Everything he says will be admissible. And if he kills you after you tell him? He won't, because I'm going to give him what he wants. I pulled out a piece of paper. I'm going to confess, Michael. A false confession. I'll say I killed Arthur, that I found out about the affair and poisoned him. In exchange, I want the insurance money returned, and I want Denise to give you a quiet divorce and full custody of Elijah. Mom, that's insane. It's not. Once he agrees, once he admits on tape that there was a murder, that Denise did it, that they stole the money, I'll have them. I recant the confession, and we have the real recording. It was the only way. I'd been underestimated my whole life. By Arthur, by Denise, by James. They thought I was just a naive old woman. It was time to let them keep thinking that, right up until the trap snapped shut. The next morning, I went to the police station. I told Detective Bryant I'd received threats. I showed her the texts about Elijah. She was immediately concerned. I think I know who sent them, I said carefully. I'm meeting them today at noon to talk. Mrs. Johnson, if you're in danger, I'll be recording the conversation. 2-party consent, fully legal. If I'm right, the recording will prove everything. Bryant looked skeptical but nodded. Where? I gave her the address of the shack. If I don't call you by 1 p.m., something is wrong, I said. The recorder has GPS. You'll find me. It didn't, but she didn't need to know that. At 11:30, Michael drove me to the turnoff, half a mile from the shack. He helped me clip the small recorder to my bra, the mic hidden in my collar. Be careful, Mom, he said, his eyes filled with fear. I promise. Keep Elijah safe. If I don't come back, the thumb drive is in the Bible. Give it to Bryant. Tell her everything. Mom, I love you. I love you, Michael. I squeezed his hand. Now let me go finish this. I walked the last half mile. My knees ached, but I didn't slow down. I saw the shack. James's truck was there. The door opened as I got to the porch. James stood there smiling. Clara, come on in. We have a lot to talk about. I stepped onto the porch. My heart was a drum. My hand touched the recorder under my shirt. Before we start, James, I said, my voice loud and clear, I want you to know, I am recording this conversation for my own protection. James's smile didn't waver. Of course, Clara. We have nothing to hide. But as I stepped inside, I saw her, Denise, sitting at the table, cold and calm, and I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. On the table in front of her sat a gun. Actually, Clara, Denise said, her voice soft, you're not recording anything. That device, it's been jammed. We've been listening to your phone calls for the last 24 hours. We know everything you've planned. James closed the door behind me. The lock clicked. Sit down, Denise ordered. We have a new proposition for you, and this time, you don't get to negotiate. I stood in the center of that shack, my hands steady, even though the gun was right there. 71 years had taught me one thing. Panic is a traitor. They expected me to be scared. I decided to be curious. How long have you been listening? I asked, my voice calm. James laughed, so proud of himself. Since yesterday morning, after you left the shack, I put a tracker on Michael's truck. Cloned your phone. It's easy, you know. We heard every conversation, read every email. We watched you plan your little trap. Then you know I told Detective Bryant where I'd be, I said. She's expecting my call. Actually, she's not, Denise said, her voice smooth as silk. I called her this morning from your phone, canceled the meeting, said you were feeling poorly. She was very understanding. Denise stood, walking around the table. You didn't think this through, Clara. You're smart, I'll give you that. Smarter than Arthur, but you're old. You're alone, and you're outmatched. Sit down, James ordered. I sat. I looked at the layout. One door, blocked by James. 2 windows. Denise had the gun. They'd planned this. Here's what's going to happen, Denise said, using that calm nurse's voice. You're going to write a confession, a real one. You'll say you killed Arthur because you found out about his affair. You poisoned him with digoxin you got from... She paused. From your sister's prescription. She had a heart condition, didn't she? Died 3 years ago. My sister, Mary. They'd looked into everything. You'll confess, Denise went on. Then you'll write a suicide note. You're overcome with grief and guilt, facing prison. You drove out here to Arthur's love shack, and you took your own life. With what? I asked. James pulled a pill bottle from his jacket. Sleeping pills. The same ones you take. We got them from your house yesterday. They had been in my house. Again. Violating my home, just like they'd violated my family. And if I refuse? Then we shoot you and make it look like suicide anyway, James said flatly. But that's messy, raises questions. This way is clean. You confess, you die. The investigation closes. Michael grieves, but he inherits. Denise gets half in the divorce. Life goes on. Michael knows the truth, I pointed out. He heard your confession. He has the phone. Had, Denise corrected me. Past tense. I remotely wiped my old phone this morning. Every message, every photo, gone. And that recording Michael made? Inadmissible, just like you told him. You did us a favor, explaining the legal problems. She was right. I'd been so focused on doing it right, I'd told them every move I was making. Michael will never stop, I said. He knows you killed his father. Michael is emotional, Denise said, waving her hand. He'll be sad about you. He'll suspect me. But with no proof, what can he do? Eventually he'll move on. People do. And Elijah needs his mother. The mention of my grandson was a spike of ice. You'd really do this? I asked. Murder your husband's mother? We've done worse, James said. Arthur was harder. Took weeks of dosing, monitoring. Besides, Denise added, you're not really Michael's mother anymore, are you? Not the woman he knew. That woman died when she found out Arthur was cheating. The person here now is bitter, vengeful. Michael will mourn the mother he remembers, not the woman you've become. Her words were meant to cut, to make me doubt. But I'd learned something. Transformation wasn't weakness. The naive Clara was gone. In her place was someone harder, wiser. I had to stall. Bryant might not be coming, but Michael knew where I was. What are you thinking about? Denise asked. Michael? He's busy. We sent him a text from your phone. Said you needed him to pick up Elijah immediately. An emergency at his school. He's probably halfway to Atlanta by now. She smiled. Your grandson is perfectly safe, by the way. Just Michael running around in a panic while we finish this. They'd thought of everything. You're wondering if there's a way out, James said. There isn't. We've planned this for years, Clara. Even before Arthur died, we knew you'd be a problem. Arthur was supposed to change his will, leave it all to a trust we controlled, but the old fool kept putting it off. So you killed him, I said. We accelerated the timeline, Denise admitted. Arthur was getting sentimental, talking about making things right with you, about confessing. He was weak. We couldn't risk it. She picked up the gun, checked it, set it back down. The message was clear. Write the confession, James ordered, pushing a pen and paper across the table. I picked up the pen, but I looked at Denise. Did you ever love Michael? She looked surprised. What does that matter? Humor me, I'm about to die. She shrugged. Michael was a means to an end. Access to your family, to Arthur, to this life. He was sweet, easy, still is. And Arthur? Pathetic, she said with a sneer. A vain old man, desperate to feel young. He really believed I loved him. She laughed. The only person I've ever loved is James. We've been together since high school. Even Elijah? I whispered. Elijah was necessary, she said, her voice cold. A child to cement my place, to give me leverage. He's useful. Hearing her talk about my grandson like that, it made something snap. But I kept my hand steady. One more question. The complaint to the police. Insurance, James confirmed. If you got too close, we'd make you look guilty. Frame you before you could frame us. It has just enough truth to be believable. Your access, your motive. Very thorough, I said. I looked at the paper. I assume you want this to be detailed? Extremely, Denise said. I began to write. But I wasn't writing a confession. I, Clara Johnson, I wrote, being of sound mind, declare the following. On October 29th, I came to the shack on Lake Hartwell owned by James Johnson. Present were James Johnson and Denise Johnson, who threatened me with death unless I confessed to murdering my husband, Arthur Johnson. I kept writing. I kept them talking. Tell me about the digoxin. Where did you get it? A friend in Canada, Denise said, smug. Ordered it online, untraceable. I wrote it down. And the insurance fraud? That was my idea, James said, proud. Set up the trust. Had Arthur's will drawn up. He signed it thinking it was a deed for the shack. forged his signature on the application. Simple. Brilliant, I murmured, still writing. I was documenting everything. Their confession, their methods, not a suicide note, a testimony. If they killed me, this paper would speak for me. Are you done? Denise asked, getting impatient. Almost, I said. Then I made my move. I'd noticed something. The gun on the table was a revolver. And when Denise set it down, she'd placed it carelessly, the handle facing the center of the table. One last thing, I said, looking up at her. You should know. I recorded something you didn't find, something you couldn't wipe. You're bluffing, she said, but her eyes flickered. Arthur's lawyer, I said calmly. Mr. Brennan, I sent him a sealed envelope 2 days ago. Instructions to open it if anything happened to me. Inside is a full account of everything. Copies of your messages, the financial records, a detailed timeline of Arthur's murder. It was a complete lie, but they didn't know that. You're lying, James said, but he looked at Denise. Am I? I smiled, a cold, hard smile. You've been so busy tracking my phone, my emails. Did you think to monitor my physical mail? My in-person meetings? I'm 71 years old, James. I know how to exist without a digital trail. Denise lunged for the gun. I lunged for the table. My hand hit the edge, flipping it up with a strength I didn't know I had. The gun flew, skittering across the floor. Papers scattered. Denise screamed. James rushed me, but I was already moving for the door. It was locked. James grabbed my arm, yanking me back. I spun, using his own momentum, and drove my elbow into his stomach. He grunted, letting me go. Denise had the gun. She raised it, her hands shaking. Don't move, Clara! Don't! The window behind her exploded. Michael crashed through in a spray of glass, his shoulder hitting Denise's back. The gun fired, the sound deafening. The bullet went into the ceiling. Michael wrestled the gun from her, his face cut and bleeding, but his grip like iron. Get outside, Mom! He shouted. Now! Behind him, through the broken window, I saw them. Detective Bryant, 2 uniformed officers, running toward the shack. James tried to bolt, but I stuck my foot out. A petty move, but it felt so good. He crashed to the floor, and the officers were through the door, weapons drawn, shouting. It was over in seconds. Denise and James in handcuffs being read their rights. The confession I'd written was bagged as evidence. Michael's phone showed the recording he'd made through the broken window. Every word, every admission. Detective Bryant looked at me, her face a mix of admiration and absolute exasperation. Mrs. Johnson, she said, you could have been killed. But I wasn't, I said. My hands were shaking now, the adrenaline fading. And now you have everything. The recording is admissible, she confirmed. Michael was outside. The window was broken. You told them you were recording. They had no expectation of privacy. I looked at my son, my brave, wonderful son, bleeding from a dozen cuts. I told you to stay with Elijah. I took him to the police station first, Michael said, wincing. Played Bryant the recording from last night. She agreed. It was enough. We've been outside for 20 minutes, listening. You heard everything. His face hardened as he looked at Denise being led away, including what she said about Elijah. That, I knew, was the wound that would never heal, knowing his mother saw him as a tool. As they put Denise in the car, she looked at me. No tears, just cold, hard hate. You won't win, she screamed. I'll get lawyers, The door slammed shut. James was quiet, defeated. We would have gotten away with it, he mumbled. No, I said, loud enough for him to hear. You wouldn't have. You made the same mistake everyone makes. You underestimated an old woman. 3 months later, I stood in my kitchen. Snow was falling, covering the farm in white. The trials had been fast. The evidence was too much. Michael's recording, my written testimony, the financial records, the forged signature. They took plea deals. Denise got 25 years to life for second-degree murder and fraud. James got 15 for accessory and conspiracy. The insurance money was recovered. I put it all in a trust for Elijah's education. The farmhouse was quiet, but not lonely. I heard boots stomping on the porch. Elijah burst in, his cheeks red. "Grandma, the snow is deep. Can we build a fort?" "We sure can," I smiled. At 13, he was struggling. The divorce, his mother. But he was resilient. Michael followed him in, carrying groceries. He'd moved back to the farmhouse, his sanctuary, my comfort. "Elijah, go change," he said, the dad voice automatic. After Elijah was gone, Michael looked at me. "Mom, I got a call from Denise's lawyer." My hands stilled. "What?" "She wants to see Elijah, claims she has rights, that keeping him from her is cruel." The audacity. "What does Elijah want?" I asked. "He says he never wants to see her again. He's angry." "But Mom, what if he resents me later?" I took his hand. "Michael, you protect him now. He's a child who just learned his mother is a murderer. He needs safety. If he changes his mind when he's an adult, you'll support him then. But not now." She says she's remorseful. "Denise is a sociopath," I said firmly. I looked into her eyes in that shack. There was nothing there. It's a performance. It's not real. He was quiet. "How are you so calm? Dad? He cheated on you. Doesn't that make you furious?" "Oh, it does," I said. "I'm angry at Arthur every day. Angry at his weakness, his vanity. But I'm also free. Free from a marriage that was a lie. Free from wondering why he was so distant. Now I know, and knowing hurts. But it's better than the uncertainty." "Do you miss him?" "I miss who I thought he was," I admitted. "The man I married. But that man, he wasn't the whole story. The real Arthur was a man who could be seduced, who could lie, who could betray us. So, no. I don't miss him. I mourn what I lost, but I don't want it back." "I feel the same way about Denise," Michael said quietly. That evening, after Michael and Elijah were asleep, I was going through a box of Arthur's things, his wallet, his wedding ring. I'd locked mine away. Underneath, I found a letter, sealed. My name on it, in Arthur's real, messy handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. "My dearest Clara," it read, "if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm a coward for not saying this to your face. I've done terrible things. I've betrayed you. I started something I couldn't stop, and it's poisoned everything. You deserved better. You deserved honesty. I let vanity and weakness destroy the best thing I ever had. Your love. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know, whatever you discover, you were never the problem. The problem was always me. My cowardice, my selfishness. You are remarkable, Clara. Stronger than I ever was. I hope you find peace. I'm sorry for everything. But mostly, I'm sorry I wasn't the man you believed I was. Arthur." The letter blurred. Tears. The first I'd cried for him since the truth came out. Not for losing him, but for the waste of it all. He'd known. He'd known he was dying. He'd suspected. Or maybe he just knew his heart was failing and wanted to confess. I folded the letter. It was closure. An acknowledgement from the grave that I hadn't been crazy. That I wasn't the cold wife Denise painted me to be. I had a farm to run, a grandson to raise, a life to rebuild, from the foundation of truth I'd fought for. That night, my phone buzzed. A text from Michael downstairs. "Thank you, Mom. For everything. For fighting for us. For being stronger than any of us knew. I love you." I smiled. "I love you too. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow we start rebuilding. Because that's what survivors do. We adapt, we overcome, we rebuild. Denise had called me an old woman. She'd learned too late. Age meant experience. Age meant patience. Age meant knowing when to fight and when to play innocent. I was 71 years old. I'd survived betrayal and a murder plot. I was old. And old meant dangerous. I would never be underestimated again. Now, tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the video on your screen right now. I'm sure it will surprise you.